This video we're going to look at how to talk about structural techniques used in the writing that you'll be looking at. There'll be new revision videos every week. Subscribe for the next in the series. Repetition is a literary device, but it's also a structural device, and it's a really easy one to talk about. So where you find phrases or sentences that are repeated for emphasis or to create an effect, talk about that as a structural device as well. Writers use repetition to reinforce key ideas, to create rhythm, or to evoke emotions in the reader. For example, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. The repetition of let it snow emphasises the speaker's desire for snowfall. Anaphora is another type of repetition, and this time the word or phrase is repeated at the beginning of successive clauses or sentences or paragraphs. It's often used to create emphasis, rhythm, or a sense of urgency. For example, in the Martin Luther King speech, I Have a Dream, that phrase is repeated at the beginning of several paragraphs and sentences for emphasis and for rhetorical effect. It's very, very memorable. Epistrophe is a rhetorical device that you may not have heard of before, but you will almost certainly be seeing it in some of the text you study. And it's where the phrase is repeated at the end of the clauses or sentences. So it's the opposite of anaphora, it's a counterpart where the repetition is at the beginning. Epistrophe is often used in speeches and writing to create emphasis, and it makes it memorable because it's at the end. And we'll just look at a quick example that you may recognise. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. So that repetition of as a child, you might have heard that before. One you will probably have heard before, especially if you're one of my students, is the phrase a single story. In The Danger of a Single Story, she repeats a single story very often at the end of the paragraphs, and that is called epistrophe. Declarative sentence is a really good technique name to remember, because a declarative sentence is a sentence that makes a statement or expresses an opinion. It conveys information and ends with a full stop. So a declarative sentence is a sentence that makes a statement or expresses an opinion is a declarative sentence itself. So they're quite easy to find. They'll be in most texts. An example of this is the sun sets in the west. But there are loads and loads of examples. Use of fragments or incomplete sentences is another structural technique. And these incomplete sentences or thoughts are used, their sort of stylistic effect. They convey urgency or fragmented thinking or natural speech or natural thought. So if the complete sentence would be she loved to dance, the fragment that you might have instead, dancing under the stars, her passion igniting in the night, neither of those bits are complete sentences. The fragment, dancing under the stars, her passion igniting the night, is incomplete. It doesn't have a subject, it doesn't have a main verb, it's not a proper sentence, but it works because it just feels a bit more natural. Another structural point that you might look at is a circular structure. So if you have a narrative that begins and ends in the same place or the same situation, that's a circular structure. So this creates a sense of completion and it emphasises the cyclical nature of the story. So, for example, in the novel 100 Years of Solitude, the story ends with the same scene as it begins with. And that symbolises the cyclical nature of history and of human experiences. Like and subscribe, and we'll get on with your English revision.